In theory, am I recording? Looks like I'm recording. Okay, nerds. My friend Scott says I should do this, which is like show kind of how I look at producing stuff, I guess. And I'm gonna use my son as an example. And this is the test. We'll see if I ever post it. But he sent me a Logic file, Apple's Logic music software, of a song that he's writing and recording. And because I'm a music producer, audio guy, when I listen to things, you know, I hear the problems, especially like works in progress. Like when I listen to music that other people have recorded, I'm not critiquing it necessarily. I'm just listening to the song. But if I go into the mode of producer mode, then I'll be like, well, I don't love the snare, or like, why no ambiances, or that bridge sucks, or whatever. Like I'm very opinionated, but I don't always turn that switch on. You know what I'm saying? But when I do turn it on, then I'm trying to solve problems. I'm trying to make it so I think everything sounds great. And so it's not an insult to anyone. Nothing sounds great right off the bat, It takes work. So with the critiques I'm about to say about this, no offense intended on anything. And with that, I'm just going to see if this works. So this is the song that I received. It's a lovely song, in my opinion. He's my son, so I get to think that. Let's play a little bit of it for ya. I don't know how good the audio is going to come through for you in terms of stereo and the sonics, but just gonna let a little thing go through, which is right here. This is the verse, perhaps obviously, and then the chorus is coming up here. See, as the chords that in at the top here. This is Apple's. Um, you put the chords and then you can use their session players to fill in parts for you, like while you're writing songs. Here's the chorus. So, so I think it's a very nice song. Um, so the problems, first of all, it's really dark and hard to hear things. The vocal's too low. Um, there's this guitar part is taking up a ton of room, and like there's a trillion judgment calls in this process, So in my opinion, you got to follow your gut, and then um, see how the people you're working with respond, and then adapt. Not so much to please them, but to learn from them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's this collaborative process. Um, Sometimes your gut will be wrong in terms of what the artist is thinking, you know, and then you can recalibrate. You can be like, oh, you want a punk song? Okay, cool. I can totally. But in terms of right now, it's like, should that be the main thing, that guitar? No, in my opinion. In Miles's opinion, my son, maybe yes. But so what I'm going to say is like, we should not have it in at the beginning. If we take that thing out, the beginning gets very pretty. Totally different vibe, obviously. But then we can bring that guitar in later. It's a little tool in our toolbox. So this is our main guitar. Turn off the automation. It's a nice guitar. It sounds nice. It's dark and not very sparkly, and there's no ambience and stuff on it. He's taking some lows off, which is the right instinct, I'd go farther. Um, so a lot of times, in audio production, you are brightening things up or taking the bottom out of things. Like a lot of the time. And you got to be careful because if you just turn up the treble and everything, it sounds terrible. You got to think about how to do that. So like, I'm getting into the weeds here, and if you don't like that, like the next button's down there somewhere. Um, so this is a low shelf EQ that I can take off a ton of bottom. Like here's 100 hertz. uh, Things you can't hear, the very, very low end here, up to mid range here. So I can take a ton of bottom out, or I can take a little of a lot of things out. That's what's kind of cool about a shelf, and I use it a lot. Um, so on this case, I would take less out, but of more frequencies. There's a lot of low mids in there that we don't really need. So obviously use your ears during this process, but you know, we can tell what's happening here. So I'm brightening it up, and I can just easily turn it off. It's like, ooh, maybe I went too far. I'm missing some nice character there now. And then again, judgment calls on the top. Sometimes I'll brighten the very, very top to just kind of get the pick sound. And that sounds pretty nice like that. Um, Other times you might go for more the mid-range, which guitars excel at. I'll use a more gentle thing here, but so you can pick out, you know, the timbres that you like. Um, you just got to be careful you're not picking exact same ones for everything, because sometimes you're like, oh, this is great, and then you'll find 2.5Ks up on every single thing, and again, that's a problem. In this case, you know, it's okay to go too far in a sense because you're going to come back and split the differences a bunch of times, but don't go too far. Just try a little bit. So I'll just put a little of that top on. Um, Sometimes the mids are hurting you. Like I hear a little "huh," like that little in this guitar, which is in here. Hear that? Um, so I might find that slightly unpleasant, so I'll take a couple dB. I'll just dip it slightly. Again, use your ear holes. And again, this is where we started. I think it's talking better. Like, you might have gone a little too far here. Or maybe you want a little more low mid, so I'll slide a little down. Let's pretend this is great, and we're going to come back to 1,000 times. Um, so, I realize you're not seeing the mixture, but so this is the acoustic guitar, which is not labeled. Label it Miles. I like to put who played it also. So now up here in my tracks, it says, you can see that track. Um, so we'll just focus on the acoustic guitar for a second, ignore all of this stuff because I haven't really looked at it yet. Because the guitar only has this EQ on it, which is good. That's a good sign. Like when you see a ton of shit like this over here, two compressors, pedal board, EQ, like, you know, seems like, well, we'll talk about this later. Um, I like ambiances. Um, I like to put things in places. There's trends where people like things bone dry. There's artists, producers, and eras in music where people like things bone dry, and that's fine. Um, when artists like it that way, or I love contrast. So um, maybe some songs are wet, some songs are dry, or maybe some instruments are wet and some are dry, or maybe it's wet at the verse and dry in the chorus or whatever. Like I like when you can make contrasts. These are subtle things, but um, ambiances are a tool of my toolbox, and I'm never gonna not use them. And again, a dry track is a way of using non-ambience. Dry is fine sometimes. Buck dry. It's not my first choice. Also, you'll notice, and also, am I long-winded? Yes. Um, Noise gates and compressors are completely unnecessary right now. Those are problem-solving things. So on this guitar track specifically. So sometimes you'll get some default um you get some default settings that noise gates and compressors and shit on things. Like you can see that. Oh, I don't see any noise gates, which is good. But and compressors are fine if you know what you're doing. I would never start with them on. They're problem solving tools. So there's none on here, thank God. It's just a nice clean acoustic guitar. Um, it's the old school person in me would say like when you record that acoustic guitar, put nothing on it, like nothing before tape, and then use as little as you can afterwards. And do everything you can with the room and the mic and the guitar and the player to make it good before you start cranking on EQs and stuff. You see, I was not particularly gentle with this EQ. Um, and I might come back and split some distances. So EQ's fine, but anyhow, we're gonna put ambience on. I'm gonna leave a little room here. I only use stock plugins. Why? Because I'm lazy and they work great. This is a newer reverb that Apple has, and I don't come in with a lot of preconceptions. I have my favorite things, but basically you're thinking like, okay, what room do we want to put this in? And this is not some ambient song where you want it to be in a giant tunnel. Um, so I'm thinking it's kind of like it's a big room, but it's not a huge room. So it's not going to be lots of seconds of delay. But I want to kind of hear the room. I want there to be like a little slap back almost. And why do I think these things? I don't know. Am I right about them? I don't know. We'll find out. So I'm just gonna look at some large rooms here, like well, Stone Abbey sounds fun. We'll just use our ear hole things. Oh, I'll put this up here for you. I have to remember you can only see one screen. Like here's the reverb I was just talking about. Stone Abbey, sorry. Here's the reverb level. Here's the dry level. First reflection, which is sort of it bouncing off the walls, which I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you can. And then the reverb, which is more all the little micro reflections. And then I can dial in the reverb time, like forever, or the, the EQ, and well, I guess this actually might be the reverb, yeah, reverb time right now. Do I like it? So one way to know is like hit the stop button. That's my room. Kind of dark, kind of long. Like let's go shorter and a little brighter, maybe. Have these first reflections way up. When in doubt, split differences. Sometimes the pre-delay can be a wonderful thing to set a delay back. So like the reverb isn't going to start for 100 milliseconds, basically, which kind of sets it back a little bit. Let's just see how that's sitting. And perspective is everything. So don't go out down the rabbit hole too soon. Really just listen to this guitar at this point. Now, the sophisticated ears among you might be thinking like, oh, maybe you do need a compressor on the guitar. Maybe you want to push it a hair more aggressive in terms of the sound. Um, Maybe we'll see. Let's just play it by ear right now, and let's just add the vocal. I don't know which is the main vocal here. It might be a double. Yeah, it's a double. So, like a general rule, which I've told Miles, and it's taking a long time for me to learn this, is the less but better. Like, don't do don't worry about double tracking things until the first thing's great. And if the first thing's great, you might not have to double track it. If you want to for artistic reasons, awesome. Sometimes we end up putting multiple tracks on because we want it to sound better, and it often doesn't. Or you end up with what they call wall of sound, where you just got so much going on that you can't really distinguish things anymore. It can be fine. Like I'll probably say a trillion times over, like there's no rules. Please break them if there are. Like I was gonna tell you what to fucking do. But like with a vocal or with a guitar, if I'm the mix engineer, I'm gonna find the best one and mute the rest to start with, because I want to see where we are and see how intimate I could make it. So like with this, I'm just gonna pick one of these vocals. There's all this stuff on here. Um,
And if Einstein wasn't wrong, we'll be
let's just ignore for a second.
going
So I'm gonna turn this guitar way
where
down.
we belong. I don't
Am I distorting?
desire
Probably.
to bathe in fire. I
You gotta be
don't
able to hear the words. You gotta hear the singer.
deserve
If you're not a good singer, get a different singer. You gotta be able to hear the singer. There's bands like Husker Du, famous for burying their vocals. There's a lot of bands that bury their vocals. If you're a punk band or whatever, whatever. If you're writing songs you want people to hear, if and if you listen to great singers, listen to the recordings of great singers, the vocal is fucking huge. So, you know, err on the side of the vocals being too loud. And if you're insecure about it, make it better. And that's going to be a common thread. Trick polishing is a terrible way to spend your days. So,
all of your world, but I'd
so just
rather
on the critique
try.
side of things, this is way over compressed. There's a couple compressors on it. There's pedals on it. There's two EQs on it. Um, and this is Apple did this. It's a preset called compressed vocal or something like that. You can see on the bottom. And I'm gesticulating and stuff, and you probably can't even tell what the fuck I'm talking about. There's all this stuff on here. You see that? But just over compressed and under EQ'd. And I like pitch correct. I have nothing against pitch correct, but let's just hear where we
To
started from.
live and die, then be alone.
In your ear hole things.
Do you have the time to
See, it's
take a second chance and really try?
it's just kind of dark. Um, because I don't really know what any of these things are doing. Also, don't care. We want to start fresh because I don't know how any of this stuff was set. I set that, so we'll leave that. But we just need an EQ. I just put pitch correct first because a lot of things phase fuck, which can change pitch. So I just do that first. Um, which is we're gonna leave off right now. But then EQ, Apple has a nice linear phase EQ. Why is this track in stereo? I don't fucking know. Oh, it's probably my pitch correct. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of this. This is a mono trap. You see that little single dot right there? Therefore, I shouldn't have stereo effects on it yet. Because you don't need to. And it's just gonna fuck things up. Now I have a nice mono EQ on this, and on vocals, 400. 400 has been my nemesis almost my whole engineering life. 400. There's generally too much of it, but you don't want to take out too much of it either, or
It's
things
okay,
sound thin. There's a lot of mixes from
it's
my early
only
days that I'm like,
for a
a little more
day.
400, bro. But
I
immediately
don't know
it cleans this
when
up. And then
I'll see
there
you
tends to be a lot of
again.
lint you don't need. You
I
can see some of it here.
don't know why
So if you do this, you don't have
I
to do all
made
this
you cry,
frightening stuff. Some people,
and I don't
or me in the
know
olden days,
how,
would grab that treble
but
shit first.
it's over
Get rid
now.
of what's
We'll
holding you
be
back down here.
alone.
And then if it needs a little sparkle, you can add a little. It's dangerous because it's going to add to your sibilance, which is S sounds and stuff. That's already better. And then I'm not shy about compressing vocals. I compress the living fuck out of them. Super fast attack. Oops, I have to drag it up here. Super fast attack. Super fast release. Infinite ratio. The highest ratio I can find. Oops. So we'll start this over here. And then I'm going to quit this and we're just going to have it be this much for this today.
And if Einstein wasn't
So
wrong,
now I'm compressing this
we'll
vocal,
be
which means I'm turning it down in the loud parts. That's what a compressor does. It's moving the fader really fast for you. In this case, very fast, like it's tracking the input signal very closely. Um, I like slow attack, I mean super fast attacks and on vocals. To me, this is very transparent. Some people go the other way. They go very slow on both sides, which, is like moving the fader slower. And then, so here's an example of what a lot of people do, where you're just kind of gently moving the fader in the sentence, uh, versus what I do, which is I'm trying to be in the compressor almost the whole time. See, I'm sort of in with the very, well, it's like, what's going on? This is accidentally too slow. So for the quiet ends of words, I'm recovering very quickly, so it makes it very even, and I'm not letting many transients through on the front, so there's not a lot of things poking through, which is why I like it, which is like the BBX 160X in over easy mode back in the Prince days is what I would use on his voice, because it basically does this, roughly speaking. So now we're just gonna listen to this, and then we're gonna, so we'll just see how this is like. You want the song to work at this point. Wow, I'm actually compressing too much. Ease back the threshold a little bit. And it's still a little dark in my opinion, so the compressor made it worse. All of your world, but I'd rather try. Now we can really hear the song, and it's a great starting point to this. Tune in next week, you guys. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Okay, bye.